It's about 5 p.m. on Thursday, October 10th, and I'm going to start trying to move the cows at least every day, hopefully twice a day. Cows and the calves together. I was actually thinking of bringing the sheep together too. Oh, some of the calves crossed the wire at the wrong spot. Yeah. Well, you're pushing on me. Is that number? That's 20. Old 20. I'm looking at their condition on the left side here. I'm looking at the fly count. Couple of notes on what I'm doing, my technique. So I've divided my pasture into rows. So let's start with the pasture. The pasture is half a mile long in the north-south direction, this way, and it's 1,000 feet wide in the east-west direction. So as you all know, you multiply those two numbers out and you get exactly 60 acres. What I do is I take a row and I set up two wires parallel to each other. So this is one wire, there's the wire from the previous row, and there's a new wire I just set up, right? I connect it at the far end, and then I don't connect it at the reel, so I just tighten the reel as much as I want. And I put down posts. I put 13 posts in between the two ends, so that divides up basically into 14 sections. And I like the number 14 because I like to spend 3.5 days in a row. That's kind of my target, is 3.5 days. So that means 4 posts in a day. So 4 sections in a day. 4 of the distance between the posts. So if I move them twice a day, then it's 2 posts that I move them, right? And that's an average, right? If I'm looking at the grass and it looks pretty thin, then I'll give them a little extra, maybe a lot extra, maybe 3 or 4 posts. And if I look at the grass and it's super thick, then I'll give them less, right? So that it averages out to about 3.5 days per row. If there's just not enough grass where I feel like 3.5 days isn't enough time to keep them in one row, I'll make the rows wider in the north-south direction instead. Right now they're about 100 feet wide. I can do 150 or 200 feet wide. The issue is the wider the rows, the fewer rows there'll be, so the quicker they're going to rotate. So with 2,560 feet, that's a half mile for those of you who are familiar. I'm going to start bringing these cows in, these cattle in, calves. They don't seem to understand how moves work anymore. That's 25 rows. Let's just round it out to 24, right? And so it's 1 week per 2 rows, right? 2 rows per 1 week. So that's 12 weeks. So that's a 12-week rotation. So if I decide to double the size of the rows to 200 feet wide, then that means I only have 6 weeks before I have to start over again. And then obviously we can remove whatever we want to remove as a stockpile. Here's 48. Hey, young girl. You're a rock star. The wider they are, the quicker the rotation. The thinner they are, the slower the rotation. I've kind of found that I don't like to go less than 100 feet wide. Yeah, you're going to cross the wire, aren't you, like a bad boy? Yeah, that's a boy. Although he can sing he can sing a soprano because he's been castrated. So he's a castrati steer. Okay, so I like to keep it about 100 feet wide. I don't really want to get any thinner than that. And I can't spend more than 3 days in a row because the cows have to come back to get water. And so that area of ground around the water and the path back to the water, they're going to graze that again after 3 days when the grass starts to re-go and basically kill that grass. So I don't want to keep them on any one piece of ground for more than 3 days. Anyway, that's kind of my thinking there. So I probably won't be able to come back to the pasture until late afternoon, early evening, and the grass is super thick here. I was like, I'll just give them two sections, but I don't want them to overgraze this grass, so I'm giving them 3 sections. They are doing what some people call selective grazing, where they eat what they like and they leave the rest behind. And lots of YouTubers do what's called total grazing. But Greg, Judy, myself don't do total grazing. We don't believe in that. His philosophy, my philosophy that I adhere to, not backed by research, and for my case, not backed by much experience, is that the grass will regrow quicker if you don't take more than 1/3 of it. So the grass wants to be nibbled, but it doesn't want to be eaten. It just wants that top to be nibbled. So if you do that, it'll regrow quickly. You'll get more total growth in the year. For weed control, if the weeds get out of control, we can use a machine and knock them down, but hopefully the grass will just be strong enough that the weeds don't really dominate. And you can kind of see that here where the goat weed is trying to grow desperately, but the grass is crowding it out from the bottom up, right? And I've also found that having something on the ground is better than not having much at all in terms of water retention and in terms of regrowth and just overall soil health. Okay. Again, I'm speaking from my limited experience. I'm not speaking from any research that I'm citing or anything like that, right? So the Total Grazing guys, they have science and stuff behind them, and you can go listen to them if you want to, but I'm not right now. Okay. So selective grazing for the cattle. Hopefully that'll help me put on better gains for the steer, and the cows will be ready to bounce back. Oh my goodness, what has happened to this cow? It's some kind of wound on Blackie. It looks like she was burned or she rubbed that off or something. It doesn't look like, maybe there's a boil there. Wonder if it's very sensitive. I'm touching around it, I'm not touching it. Maybe there is a big blister there or something. Or maybe one of those horse flies got to her and she just kept itching it or scratching it or something. I don't know. Anyway, that's kind of my philosophy and how I run things on this land. And this is the result of doing this for 3 years with 3 severe droughts. We are in D2 severe drought right now. There is no rain expected in October, maybe some on October 31st. It hasn't rained all October. We've gotten some dew in the morning, but that's about it. And right now the humidity is super low. It's like 20%. It's like 80 degrees outside. We're expecting another little heat wave. It's going to get up to the 90s over the weekend. But we're just not getting a lot of rain. And as I've said before in other videos on drought management, my strategy is keeping the ground vegetative so that when we do get rain, it goes downstairs. And if we don't get rain, that water is used to grow vegetation versus just evaporation. You know, transpiration versus evaporation, that kind of thing. And so far, I think I'm doing pretty good. Right here we are on the 10th of October. The Bermuda grass is still green. There's plenty of grass. I have 90 bales of hay, more than I've ever bought before. And so I'm not really concerned about wintertime. Also, the hay I'm going to supplement with some protein supplement because the grasses in the wintertime just have no protein. And this is Bahia hay. I can get it measured, but I'm just going to put protein out and the cows will eat all the protein they want, you know. So they're not going to be short on protein during the winter, so they shouldn't lose too much weight. Anyway, guys, that's where I'm at. Have a great day. Take care and bye-bye.